Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, we are reading from Caitanya Caritamrita Adi-Lila chapter 7. Text 91, we have been hearing the glories of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Bhala haila paile tumi parma purushartha, tomara premite ami hailan kritartha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It is very good, my dear child, that you have attained the supreme goal of life by developing love of Godhead. Thus you have pleased me very much, and I am very much obliged to you. So here, because this conversation that's happening, Lord Chaitanya is telling Prakashananda Saraswati about his conversation with his spiritual master. So when Lord Chaitanya told his spiritual master, by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, I am laughing, crying, my heart is full of joy and it's uncontrollable. His spiritual master is congratulating him. He's saying that you have attained the supreme goal of life. We have so many goals. We have daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, yearly goals. But what's the goal of life? The supreme, and we have our goals of life too. But what's the supreme goal? That is to develop love for God. Love for God is there in everyone's heart. We just have to develop it. By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, we can easily revive it. And so the spiritual master is telling Lord Chaitanya, I'm very pleased. We can see that how the spiritual master is pleased when we can revive our love of God. That's what he wants us to do. He's never going to tell us to get separated from Krishna. Spiritual master repeats the words of God. That's all. His instructions are always based in Shastra. Whatever God says, he repeats simply the words of God. And he's saying, I am very much obliged to you. He's saying, I'm obliged to you that you're able to do this. According to the revealed scriptures, if a spiritual master can convert even one soul into a perfectly pure devotee, his mission in life is fulfilled. So the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya is feeling his mission in life is fulfilled, that my disciple has achieved the supreme goal of life, that is develop love of God, because this is the service. This is the service that the spiritual master undertakes to help us revive our love of God. And so if we are able to do it, he feels obliged that he's able to do his service. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur always used to say, even at the expense of all the properties, temples and mathas that I have, if I could convert even one person into a pure devotee, my mission would be fulfilled. So he's saying, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. And he's saying, all the properties that we have, all the temples, all whatever resources we have, I don't want anything. If I could convert one disciple into a pure devotee. It is very difficult, however, to understand the science of Krishna. What to speak of developing love of Godhead? Therefore, if by the grace of Lord Chaitanya and the spiritual master, a disciple attains the standard of pure devotional service, the spiritual master is very happy. So Krishna says it's very difficult to understand me. Manushyanam Sahasreshu. We are just hearing in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, that out of millions who are endeavoring for perfection, hardly one knows him in truth. Hardly one. So it's very difficult. But if we somehow or the other can get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, of the spiritual master, then we can easily come to this position. Prema bhakti jaha hoite, avidya vinasha joite. Also the prayer is there. that it's the lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. That is the Guru Vandana song, which is offered to Srila Prabhupada every day. It's only by the mercy of the spiritual master that one can attain pure devotional service and easily cross beyond the ocean of material existence. The spiritual man, and if a devotee can actually do it, the spiritual master is very happy. The spiritual master is not actually happy if the disciple brings him money, but when he sees that a disciple is following the regulative principles and advancing in spiritual life, he is very glad and feels obliged to such an advanced disciple. So the spiritual master, because that is his service, he's taken up the service of bringing us back home, back to Godhead. So if he sees one is advancing in spiritual life, the spiritual master feels obliged to such a devotee and he is very happy, very happy. So reading on, Nacha Gao Bhakta Sange Kara Sankirtana Krishna Nama Upadeshi Tara Sarvajana. My dear child, continue dancing, chanting and performing Sankirtan in association with devotees. Furthermore, go out and preach the value of chanting Krishna Nam, for by this process, you will be able to deliver all fallen souls. It is another ambition of the spiritual master to see his disciples not only chant, dance, and follow the regulative principles, but also preach the Sankirtana movement to others in order to deliver them. For the Krishna consciousness movement is based on the principle that one should become as perfect as possible in devotional service oneself and also preach the cult for others' benefit. So Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master told him, very obliged to you that you have developed your love of God. Now you please continue to hear and chant and dance. So it's not that once we develop our love of God, we have attained the supreme goal of life, we stop hearing and chanting. No, hearing and chanting goes on. It's our eternal activity, continues even in the spiritual world. It continues even in the spiritual world. And so the spiritual master is saying, I'm very happy that you're doing it. You please continue to do it. And also induce others to do it. To tell others about it so that everyone else can revive their love of God. Each of us is suffering here in the material world. Why? Because we have forgotten our eternal relationship with God. And so the spiritual master is very compassionate and he wants to see everyone happy, everyone situated in their original position. So he's telling Lord Chaitanya that you also preach and you also follow the principles and you also preach. There are two classes of unalloyed devotees, namely the Goshtyanandis and the Bhajananandis. So Goshtyanandi and Bhajananandi. Bhajananandi refers to one who is satisfied to cultivate devotional service for himself. And Goshtyanandi is one who is not satisfied simply to become perfect himself, but wants to see others also take advantage of the holy name of the Lord and advance in spiritual life. So there are two kinds of devotees. One, they're Bhajanandi. They're completely and perfectly happy only to do their own bhajan. That I'm going to do my bhajan, my hearing and chanting, remembering the Lord. And like this, I'm going to become perfect. Then there is another class who say, I'm going to hear and chant and I'm going to do my bhajan, but at the same time, I want to tell others about it. I'm not happy only for myself to get perfection, but I want to take everyone with me. So that is the Goshtyanandi. And all the followers of Lord Chaitanya wants us to do that. He says, Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh. Lord Chaitanya says, wherever you go, whoever you meet, you speak to them about Krishna. So on his order, Lord Chaitanya is saying, on his order, he's telling us, each of us become gurus and tell everybody about Krishna. So we become perfect ourselves and tell about Krishna to others. So the outstanding example is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj. When he was offered a benediction by Lord Nishimadev, Prahlad Maharaj said, Nevodvijay paraduratyaya vektaranyas tvadvirya gayana mahamrita magna chittaha shoche tato vimukha chetasa indriyartha maya sukhaya maram udvahato vimudhan. My dear Lord, I have no problems and I want no benediction from you because I'm quite satisfied to chant your holy name. This is sufficient for me because whenever I chant, I immediately merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. I only lament to see others bereft of your love. They are rotting in material activities for transient material pleasure and spoiling their lives, toiling all day and night simply for sense gratification with no attachment for love of Godhead. I'm simply lamenting for them and devising various plans to deliver them from the clutches of Maya. Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 43. So Prahlad Maharaj, he's seeing the Lord face to face, and the Lord is telling him, I'll give you whatever you want. What do you want, my dear child? I'm ready to give you. Prahlad Maharaj is saying, I don't need anything. I'm just happy hearing and chanting your names. I'm perfectly happy by doing that. But what is hurting me, what I'm lamenting is when I see everyone around me suffering, thinking that they're the body, working so hard for temporary material pleasure, not understanding who they truly are. Prahlad Maharaj is having compassion for people like us who are toiling day and night simply for sense gratification with no attachment of love of God. So he's saying he is Goshtyanandi. He is telling everyone that you engage in hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains in his Anubhasya, a person who has attracted the attention of the spiritual master by his sincere service likes to dance and chant with similarly developed Krishna conscious devotees. So it's not that a devotee, he says, I'm the greatest now. I don't need anything. No, the the disciple is always trying to please his spiritual master. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado, yasya prasadat na gati kutopi. That by pleasing the spiritual master, one can get the grace of Krishna. If one does not please the spiritual master, one cannot get the grace of Krishna. So the disciple is always endeavoring to get the grace of a spiritual master, to please the spiritual master by sincere service. By sincere service. And this such a sincere disciple, he's received the mercy of his spiritual master. So he's always jubilant in dancing and chanting the holy name. The spiritual master authorizes such a devotee to deliver fallen souls in all parts of the world. So then, because this devotee is sincere in heart, he's pleased his spiritual master, he's gotten the grace of the spiritual master, then he gets the empowerment from the spiritual master. The spiritual master empowers him that you go preach to everyone and save the fallen souls everywhere in all parts of the world. Those who are not advanced prefer to chant the Hare Krishna mantra in a solitary place. Such activities constitute, in the language of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a type of cheating process, in the sense that they imitate the activities of exalted personalities like Haridas Thakur. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he is the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, a very scholarly, very powerful Acharya. Very powerful Acharya, very scholarly. And he, in his commentary, Anubhasya, he's saying that a spiritual master, a devotee who is spreading the glories of the Lord all over the world is on a higher position than one who is doing his bhajan in a solitary place trying to imitate Srila Haridas Thakur. Srila Haridas Thakur would chant 300,000 names every day, but we cannot imitate Srila Haridas Thakur, and we are not required to imitate him. We are just required to chant our prescribed number of ragas and preach, tell others about Krishna. That is how we can attract the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. We can attract the mercy of Krishna. One should not attempt to imitate such exalted devotees. Rather, everyone should endeavor to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all parts of the world and thus become successful in spiritual life. One who is not very expert in preaching may chant in a secluded place, avoiding bad association. But for one who is actually advanced, preaching and meeting people who are not engaged in devotional service are not disadvantages. A devotee gives the non-devotees his association, but is not affected by their misbehavior. So what does a devotee do? He gives his association to the non-devotees. It's not that the devotee gets influenced by the bad association. No, by his association, the devotee, by his good association, he influences everyone to take up the Krishna consciousness movement. So, thus, by the activities of a pure devotee, even those who are bereft of love of Godhead get a chance to become devotees of the Lord one day. So this is what a pure devotee does. By his presence, he creates opportunities for people like us to take up Krishna consciousness, so that one day we will be able to revive our love of God. One day we can become devotees of the Lord. All this is, it's by mercy of Srila Prabhupada that we are here in different parts of the world, and we are trying to understand the glories of the holy name. So we can see the power of one pure devotee. Okay, in this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur advises that one discuss the verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning Naitat Samacharej Jatu Manna Sapi Hi Anishwaraha, Canto 10, Chapter 33, Text 30. And the following verse in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1, 2, 255. Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatharham Upayunjataha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. One should not imitate the activities of great personalities. One should be detached from material enjoyment and should accept everything in connection with Krishna's service. So we should not imitate. We don't have to imitate. We simply have to follow in the footsteps of the devotees. And the devotees teach us how to engage everything in the service of the Supreme Lord, how to accept everything in connection with the service of the Supreme Lord. And that is Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. That is what real renunciation means. So following in the footsteps, so we should continue to hear and chant to come to this stage of perfection. Did anyone want to add anything or comment anything? If no, then we'll stop here for today. Thank you so much for listening and enjoying it. Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare